Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Dr. Dawson, and today we're going to talk about how my first year has gone as a veterinarian. Now we're at like 1.5 years because I took a little while to decide to make this video. So we're going to talk about this. Sorry I'm in a little bit more casual apparel than I usually am. I just figured we're just sitting here chatting. Not a big deal as far as how professional I look today. So let's talk about what I've learned here in the last year as a veterinarian. So for those of you that don't know, I graduated from Iowa State in 2019 with aim basically as a DVM, which means that I can practice on any animal that I want, except for people, depending on how you classify people. But I can work on any species basically on the planet. The only thing is that I kind of focused more on large animal. But at Iowa State, the way their curriculum works, we end up actually focusing a lot on small animal as well. So I would say my split was pretty close to 50-50. I did about half small, half large. And when I graduated, I came out here to central Minnesota and started a job where I do mixed animal practice. I work on just about everything. I'll just list some of the species that I've had the pleasure of working on. So cats, dogs, horses, unfortunately, sheep, goats, llamas, alpacas, bobcat, caracal, let's see, white-tailed deer. I've worked on bearded dragons, rabbits, hamsters, gerbil, a mouse, a couple other reptiles. I pretty much have worked on a lot of species, so, just kind of knowing that, when I say mixed animal vet, I don't just mean I do cats, dogs, and horses, or cat, dog, and cows. I literally am willing to work on just about anything, and I've had the privilege of being in a practice where that's possible. So what are the things that I really have learned here in my first year of being a veterinarian? I would say the number one thing I've learned is confidence. So this is being confident to know what I'm talking about, and that when I know that I'm right, that I actually am right a lot of times. And not that I don't make mistakes, because everybody does, but being confident is really helpful, because then you don't freeze in an emergency and you don't freeze when you don't know. Instead, you just confidently say, I don't know, and you go forward and you, start figuring it out. And being confident of, even if I don't know what's going on, I know what to do next to figure it out. I know who to call, I know who to talk to, I know what to look for, and I would say confidence is probably the number one thing that I've learned so far as being a veterinarian. I know a lot of my classmates have also mentioned that, that this is something that they've had to work on pretty dramatically, because coming out of vet school where you have somebody to fall back on for every single decision, every single thing that you do, you have somebody to fall back on to say, hey, what do I do here? And there's somebody there to tell you all the time. But now that you're out in practice and we're on our own, we don't have that privilege. We don't have the privilege of, hey, what do I do here? Unless you have a really, really, really good and involved mentor. Now, I do have some thoughts on mentorship, because I had somebody who I would say was a really good mentor while she was still here. She unfortunately had to move to Iowa. Fantastic veterinarian and a really good teacher. And I'll say that I learned a ton from her. But I think that having a mentor for a short period of time can be very helpful. I think that having somebody there to fall back on and really be confident to ask questions is really good. But I also think that it's really good to be forced to make decisions, because the more decisions you make, the faster you're going to mature as a veterinarian, and the better you're going to be the next time you encounter these situations when you don't have somebody to fall back on. Now, surgery is probably the next thing that I've learned the most in. We work with several shelters, and we do a lot of routine spays and neuters. But I've gotten to do quite a few other surgeries as well, abdominal exploratories for foreign bodies, and as well as doing a C-section and doing an amputation and doing a lot of these more routine, but also somewhat more advanced procedures. And I think it's really helped to be confident, one, knowing what you're doing and knowing the anatomy and just going in and doing it, I think is really helpful. And I think that doing as many spays and neuters as we've done, I think that really gave me an advantage in learning how to suture, learning how to handle hemorrhaging, so bleeding during surgical procedures, and all of those things, and just really helped to build my confidence over time. Not that I haven't had a few bad experiences where I needed somebody else to help so that I could find that little blood vessel that was bleeding that I couldn't find. But, I think that surgery has been one of the other things that I've grown the most in. I think one of the other places that I've really grown a lot in and really been remembering is that I always should be willing to learn more and be willing to try new things. So even if I haven't done a surgical procedure or I haven't done a medical procedure or I haven't diagnosed this disease before, doesn't mean I can't. And I think that's been a little bit of a struggle for me to learn, and something that I really needed to work on is being willing to try new things and kind of get out of my what I know shell. And I know actually quite a few veterinarians that I think struggle with that. So I don't think I'm alone in that. But yeah, I think just learning and being willing to try new things is really important. And I've learned that even though I don't always know exactly what I'm doing, it's because I haven't done it before. The vet school taught me enough that I know that I can learn how to do it. And I know that I can learn how to manage these different cases. And I just may need to call and talk to somebody. I think one of the other things that I've learned while I've been out in practice is that I shouldn't be afraid to tell people that I don't know. So if there's something that I don't know, if there's a diagnosis that I don't know what is going on, I'm not really able to figure it out, that's not a bad thing. And I think I've learned that being honest with people instead of trying to BS my way through it is really a good thing. And the reason that I say that is people really tend to, now there's exceptions, but they tend to really respect somebody who comes out and says, hey, I don't know what's going on, but let's figure it out. And I think that's been one of the other things that I've really learned. Now, I think the last thing here that I'm going to mention on this section of the video is that a lot of people deal with imposter syndrome, feeling like I'm not adequate, I'm not equipped to do this. And in some ways, it's, imposter syndrome is really common, but I also think that everybody gets a chance to work through it. And the reason that I say that is all of us struggle with new things. None of us know exactly what we're doing when we get into practice. So if you are a vet student that is really struggling with this, as I know a lot of my classmates did, and myself included to some degree, you guys are smart. You've gotten to where you are because of how hard you work, because of how good your grades are, and because you have done the right things and you've gotten the experiences you need to succeed in vet school. At Iowa State, I think we had 2 people drop out of our class, maybe 3. And one of them came back the next year. But I think, that's only 1 or 2% of people that didn't make it from my class. And I think that's really important for you guys to remember, is that you guys will make it through, just like I did and just like everybody else did. But yeah, I think just imposter syndrome is a thing. But I think as you guys grow more confident and project confidence, that actually becomes part of your demeanor and part of how you handle situations. So there's a few things that actually surprised me coming out of vet school. And I think the first one is figuring out and knowing, and I'm surprised by all of the things that I do know. So coming out and, with a practitioner who has been out for a while, I think that I learned a lot, to double check what everybody said, whether it was what I remembered, whether it was what he said, whether it was what the other vet said, because more often than not, what you remember is what you learned. You don't normally remember random things that are wrong. It can happen, but coming out of vet school, you guys think, oh, I don't know what to do with all this. And you may not know off the top of your head the dose for everything. You may not be able to just and be done with a prescription, but you guys know so much more than you think you do. And I think that was the thing that surprised me. I think one of the other thing, and this one's a little bit humorous, that surprised me is I've had so many people comment about how young I am. I had one lady who said, "Wow, you don't look a day over 12. What? I look so much older than 12. And my wife will attest to me having gray hairs. We tried to get a picture, but the lighting just wasn't right for it. But yeah, I have gray hair. I am not just 12. I am much older than that. But yeah. And I also had somebody who, this one is even more funny, went up to my boss when we were around and said, "So are you guys father and son?" Look at her and I'm going, "Nope." But she thought that I was young enough that you know, we were father and son, and he's only like 10 years older than I am. But she still thought that we were father and son. So I think that's one of the things that surprised me, is so many people that act like I'm so young. But then there's so many other people that, don't even comment about that and just comment about how professional we are and, how, well we seem to get along. So, people just always surprise me. I think one of the other things that really surprised me is how quickly people come to trust you, even though you're a new grad. So many people want that newest information. So many people, they don't necessarily, even though you feel so inadequate and unprepared on the inside, they see you as somebody who went through 8 years of schooling, who passed their boards, who can talk really smart, who has a very large vocabulary and seems to know what they're talking about. And people come to trust that really quickly. So even though you guys, I've dealt with feeling very inadequate and feeling like I don't know what to do, people don't necessarily see that. They see the confident side of you, and they come to trust you very quickly, a lot quicker than maybe you think that they will. So yeah, I would say those are the biggest things that I learned as in my first year and a half of being a veterinarian. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys and kind of let you know what my thoughts are on, my first year. In the second year, though, it's exciting because our practice is starting up embryo transfer, and that's one of my primary interests in cattle specifically. But yeah, so I'm really excited about starting that up, and I'll probably have a couple videos about that process here up in the future so that, I can share it with some of my clients so that they can go look at it and see what the process is ahead of time. So thank you guys so much for watching this video and supporting me. Right now we're still not monetized by YouTube. We need to get to 1,000 subscribers, but you guys have been fantastic, and we've been growing almost 100% month over month as far as watch time and number of views and subscribers. I think we're up 25% this month, which is amazing. So thank you guys again, and we will see you guys in the next video. If you have questions about my first year as a veterinarian, leave them down in the comments below. If any of you guys happen to find me that are in vet school right now, hit me up, and you guys can always come out and we can work out some sort of externship during your 4th year or something like that. Just let me know down in the comments, or you can probably find my business email on my profile. So let me know, and we'll talk to you guys in the future.